Before we talk about healing, we need to be brutally honest about one thing. Most of us aren't broken beyond repair. We're just living out of alignment with the structure, discipline, and purpose Allah already gave us. When you talk about healing from depression, people jump straight to the symptoms. They talk about sadness, heaviness, hopelessness, the inability to wake up in the morning, the spiral in your thoughts. But that's the surface. That's the smoke, not the fire. If all you ever do is wipe the smoke, you never stop the burning underneath. Islam doesn't play that game. Islam doesn't negotiate with symptoms. Islam grabs you by the collar and drags you back down to the source. Your structure, your inner discipline, your alignment with purpose, and your relationship with the one who designed your psychological architecture in the first place. And the uncomfortable truth is this: most depression grows in the gaps you refuse to close. Gaps in meaning, gaps in discipline, gaps in spiritual nutrition, gaps in honesty with yourself. You can sit in therapy for 10 years talking about how you feel, but if your life has no structure, your mind will keep collapsing. If your day has no anchor, your thoughts will drift into chaos. If your heart has no connection to something higher, your emotions will eventually overwhelm you. Islam cuts straight into these weak spots with surgical precision. Salah forces discipline. Dhikr forces presence. Quranic reflection forces honesty. Tawakkul forces humility. And all of these together create the exact psychological ecosystem in which depression has the least room to survive. Let's start with the most brutally obvious piece: structure. Human beings are terrible without structure. We romanticize freedom, but when you give a person absolute freedom, they fall apart. They sleep at random hours, eat trash, drift online for hours, overdose on stimulation, starve their soul, and then wonder why they feel mentally sick. You can't expect stability from a life with no pattern. Salah smashes that illusion. 5 prayers aren't just rituals. There are 5 mandatory checkpoints that cut your day into meaningful segments. Dawn, midday, afternoon, sunset, night. Islam forces you into a rhythm, and rhythm is therapy. Every psychologist understands this. The brain craves predictability. It functions better when the nervous system knows that certain points in the day are fixed. When you wake up for Fajr, you're not just praying. You're telling your brain, oh, we don't negotiate with discipline. When you stand and doer, you're interrupting your momentum so your mind never drifts too far into stress or numbness. When you pray answer, you're preventing the late day crash from becoming an emotional sinkhole. Maghrib resets your evening. Esha signals that the day is closing, thoughts are calming, and rest is coming. Depression loves chaos. Islam destroys chaos, but structure is only one layer. The next layer is presence, a concept modern psychology brands as a mindfulness. The Prophet, let us say, already solved this 14 centuries ago. Mindfulness is only a pale copy of what Dhikr actually does. Dhikr is not repetition for the sake of repetition. Dhikr is confrontation. When you say Allahu Akbar, you are forcing your mind to acknowledge a reality bigger than your fear. When you say Alhamdulillah, you are rewiring your brain to recognize the blessings that depression tries to erase. When you say Ilah ilaha Allah, you are attacking the idol of hopelessness that has taken residence in your chest. You want brutal? Here it is. Half of what you call a depression is your mind stuck in loops. You don't interrupt. You let your thoughts run wild. You let fear narrate your story. You let trauma define your identity. Dhikr is a system of deliberate interruption, a spiritual pattern that slices through thought spirals. Every time you stop and remember Allah, you reclaim control over your attention. And the person who controls their attention controls their emotions. Islam doesn't heal depression by hiding it. It heals it by confronting the internal chaos with structure and remembrance. Then you get to the real heavyweight: purpose. And this is where most people collapse. You can have therapy, medication, comfort, positive affirmation, all of it. But if your life has no purpose, your mind eventually turns on itself. Depression thrives in the vacuum created by purposelessness. Humans were not designed to exist without mission. You can feed your body, you can distract your mind, but if your soul doesn't know why it exists, it will feel empty no matter how much you try to fill it. Allah tells you your purpose up front, to know Him, to worship Him, to serve the world through obedience to Him, to live with moral weight, to move with intention, to grow through trials, to seek Him above everything. That's not poetry, that's psychology, because purpose gives you orientation, and orientation gives you resilience. The moment you anchor your identity in something unshakable, your emotional storms lose their power, and Allah is unshakable. Modern life trains you to define yourself through fragile things: money, followers, achievements, relationships, compliments. And when those fall apart, and they always do, your mental state collapses with them. Islam tells you to root your purpose in something that cannot be taken away. You can lose wealth, but you can't lose Allah. You can lose people, but you can't lose prayer. You can lose opportunities, but you can't lose the meaning that comes from striving for Him. Depression becomes heavier when everything you rely on is fragile. Islam forces you to build on what is permanent. Now let's dig deeper, the part most people refuse to admit. A huge portion of psychological suffering comes from internal contradiction. When you live in a way that violates your own moral code, your mind punishes you. When you know you should stop a sin but don't, you create cognitive dissonance. When you know you should pray but keep delaying, you feel fragmented. When you know you're ignoring your spiritual responsibility, you create guilt that festers into emotional pain. You can't lie to your soul. It records everything. Islam doesn't allow you to run from this. It forces you to align your actions with your principles. That alignment brings peace. There is no peace without integrity, and integrity comes from obedience. This isn't judgment, it's reality. When you purify your lifestyle, you purify your mind. When you clean your inner world, you weaken the roots of depression. The more your life is aligned with the divine blueprint, the less room your internal contradictions have to poison you. But healing isn't just about discipline, presence, or purpose. There's another dimension: humility. Depression often grows in the soil of excessive self-focus. When everything is in my pain, my loss, my failure, my fears, you trap yourself in a mental cage. Islam breaks that egocentrism with one word: tawakkul. The act of placing your trust in Allah dismantles the illusion that you control everything. You don't. And that's liberating. Because depression becomes heavier when you think the entire burden of existence is on your shoulders. Tawakkul shifts the weight off your chest. Not by denying responsibility, but by accepting your limits. You do what you can. You work with what you have. You take the steps you're capable of taking, and the rest, the outcomes, the unseen, the future, you hand over to the one who controls it anyway. Anxiety shrinks, despair weakens. A person who trusts Allah can still feel pain, but they don't drown in it. Now here's where the psychological worlds merge. Depression isolates you. It convinces you that you're alone. Islam refuses to let that narrative stand. You're told repeatedly that Allah is near, closer than your jugular vein, aware of every thought, present in every moment, witnessing every struggle. And that's not metaphor. That's the foundation of a believer's emotional resilience. The awareness of divine presence creates a psychological companionship that modern therapy doesn't even know how to describe. When you stand in prayer, you're not talking to the ceiling. You're talking to the author of your existence. Your pain is heard, your tears are seen. Your struggle is recorded, your patience is valued. Depression says you don't matter. Islam says your struggle is being written as worship. And here's the hardest part, the part people avoid because it forces responsibility. Healing requires truth. You cannot heal while lying to yourself. You cannot heal while blaming everyone else. You cannot heal while avoiding accountability. Islam is ruthless with truth. You stand in front of Allah and admit your weakness, your mistakes, your shortcomings. That honesty itself is therapy, confession without humiliation, vulnerability without exploitation, a safe space that no human can offer. Depression becomes heavier when you carry it alone. Islam gives you a place to unload it without fear. Now combine all these elements: structure, presence, purpose, integrity, humility, honesty, divine companionship, and you get a complete psychological system that doesn't just soothe symptoms. It transforms the person. Islam doesn't comfort you so you can stay the same. Islam strengthens you so you can rise above what you used to be. Healing is not about feeling better, it's about becoming better. And if you truly want to heal, you need to hear this. You cannot outsource your recovery. Not to scholars, not to therapists, not to friends, not even to motivational speakers. They can support you, but they can't walk the path for you. Islam gives you tools. You have to use them. Islam gives you guidance. You have to follow it. Islam gives you meaning. You have to live it. No one is coming to save you from a life you're not willing to change. And that's the harsh truth, but it's the liberating truth. Because the moment you realize the door is open and you can step through it, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your mind and start seeing yourself as a builder of your soul. In the end, healing from depression through Islam is not magic, not instant, not effortless. It's a disciplined, conscious, spiritual rebuilding of the self. Islam won't erase all your pain. It will teach you how to carry it with strength. Islam won't remove every dark thought. It will give you light strong enough to push through them. Islam won't prevent heartbreak. It will teach you how to rise with dignity when life hits you. If you implement even half of what Islam commands, you won't just survive depression, you'll outgrow it. And here's the closing line you need to remember. Nothing in your life will change until you stop negotiating with your weaknesses and start aligning yourself with the purpose Allah already wrote for you.